All right, welcome everyone to tonight's, let's see, sorry about that. Okay. Welcome everyone to this night's Exo Metaverse. We have very special guests, Rob Freeman and Mark McNabb from UFO World Explorer, and they're going to talk about their super quest. It feels like it's, you get part of their quest, which is to really travel the world with the best people making contact, small and large, mom and pops to famous people that are, standing out under the stars, looking up into our future. And they are the most knowledgeable people on the planet about filming UFOs. And we're going to talk about their night vision and thermal vision, and also their theories about consciousness and synchronicities and glitches in the matrix. So it's going to be a really exciting interview. And I just want to start with a few announcements. Rob is going to talk about his childhood UFO experience where he saw a UFO as a child, and then it was reported by 200 people in the newspaper, or seen by 200. So we really, in the survey this week, we wanted to talk about what happens when children see UFOs, and maybe they see it more easily than we do, who knows? But we'd like you to fill out the survey because we're going to go over those results later in the show. So you can do that at bit.ly, bit.ly, exo-week28. And before we do the announcements, we're going to do a 1 minute of tapping into the field. So we're going to close our eyes and bring in all the other dimensions to this wonderful conversation. So here we go. Thanks, you guys. It's amazing how 1 minute can be. So I first want to thank everybody who participated yesterday in the Fire the Grid. It's a partner organization that we're working with, and we've been volunteering. Greg Heller, one of the LightNet programmers, EXO programmers, has been working night and day to build this incredible hex map. Fire in the Grid is an organization that has in the past gotten 20 million people to meditate in joy. And they believe, as you guys may know, joy is the highest frequency there is, really. So when we're doing our joy, when we're in our joy, just like Rob and Mark are when they travel the world to film UFOs, that's really helping everyone. It's helping your neighbor. It's helping the people you're around. It's that contagious feeling. And last night at 4 a.m. in Sedona time, we got together and spent our hour in joy. And if you register on this map, you can push the hex in your city up. So we've got 1 month now for the next big synchronized meditation, global meditation. So we ask that you put the word out. They're incredible. So they're great to be interviewed on shows and things like that to get the word out. And there's going to be another one a year from now. So a huge thanks to Greg for working so hard to program this. And we really feel like it'll be a draw for this organization. And we're super happy to support with that. So I just want to remind the people that are live right now on New Realities or Awareness Ascending that if you want to get into our breakout groups, which is super fun because you get to talk about contact experiences with each other, you can do that by going to bit.ly XO Hangout. So you go to that link, it'll give you the Zoom information. Last week or last session, we spoke with scientist Dean Radin, who is published a lot of the hundreds and thousands of articles about consciousness and how, you know, even mind matter interactions are real. And he showed us his bent spoon, and then our members only hangout, which happens the first Sunday of every month. Lo and behold, this guy in the corner, Scott, bent his the spoon in the buckle, and then we had 5 other people do it in that moment. So this is pretty much impossible to do with force alone. So I guess magic really is real. Again, here's the link for the survey if you need it, and we'll be going over those results. I wanted to thank Sedona Quantum Consciousness. They're our sponsor for tonight's show, and we really thank them for supporting us financially so that we can continue to program great things. And also Awareness Ascending is going to be starting to live broadcast our show to their group. And they, again, we're doing all sorts of crazy fun experiments with channeling and brainwaves and things like that. Our next session is going to be with Jamie Price. She's famous for light language. You can find her on Gaia, and it's going to be an incredible show. So tonight, let's kick things off with Mark and Rob. I want to talk to you about your sci-fi show on Tubby, and then I'm going to bring in Daniel to ask you a few questions based on the synchronicities that I was alluding to before we started the show. So why don't you guys tell us a little bit about the show that you guys that's up and what you're working on in that regard?
I can start with this. You know, Rob and I started this whole journey. Literally, it'll be 7 years next month. You know, it was February of 2015. So the first 4 parts, because it's kind of like volumes of work. You know, like volume 1 was 2015 and 16. So the very early days. You know, where we were. Basically, the 4-part series that's on Tubi right now chronicles that time that we spent in North America, and we went different places: Mount Shasta, California, Pittsburgh. You know, we went to all kinds of different places in North America. Then we migrated over to Europe, and then Australia, and then Peru. So the 4-part series deals with all the groups that we met, all the influences that we had over the first 2 years of doing this, culminating with our time with Sixto Paz Wells, who's very legendary when it comes to consciousness and meditation and the more spiritual side of raising your frequency, raising your vibration, having that connectedness. So basically, to go on Tubi, you get the opportunity to see close to 3 hours of all of our major experiences, from the Hessdalen Valley and phenomenon that we experienced in Norway to seeing an incredible kind of, Rob can attest to the fact that we, you know, got something in infrared that we couldn't see with the naked eye over the Irish Sea. So there's all kinds of different experiences. Things that we call cool high strangeness that we can talk about a little bit too. Like you had mentioned, the synchronicities has been a major part of our work, a major part of what we've been doing. So if people want to have an understanding of our backstory, you know, this is the backstory side of what we have been a part of. The four part on Tubi is definitely where to start.
Oh, sorry, there, I was muted. Great, that's awesome. So I just shared the link here in the chat, and I'm going to bring Daniel, co-founder of Exo Metaverse and LightNet, the technical genius with a massive heart, and really an expert in dream hypnosis and exo exo contact. And I wanted you to share a little bit the synchronicity of how the four of us are connected, which I didn't even know about till today. So
Sure, yeah. So we Zenka and I met through the CE5 Canada forum, which I was directed to the literally the day before she posted, "Hey, I'm working on this citizen science platform, Exo Metaverse. Check it out." I saw this on the Facebook group. That Facebook group is moderated by Dan Berg, who is cameraman with Mark and Rob. And so I met Dan Berg that day because a few days before I said a heartfelt prayer to be of service to others in alignment with my destiny and desire of working with ET contact and hypnosis and things like that. Immediately after that, I hear in my head, like, Google CE5 Revelstoke, follow what's there. I do so. I find this story about Dan Berg and the ice circles, and he invites me in to his dealership, and we have this conversation just about CE5, about his experience with Rob and Mark, about these incredible ice circles that brought him into contact with a lot of other people. And one of the things I noticed actually and really appreciate about that experience is this sort of frequency of love and kindness and like exuberance Dan has. And that really seemed to be an aspect that brought in a lot of the contact and things like that. And so in that meeting, we started working actually together with the Atacama experience down there. And that I understand has a lot of synchronicity behind it. And I'd love to hear your sides of it. Yeah, so just in that meeting, he says, you have to go join this group. You have to go join this group. I joined that group and then met Zenka just right through there. And I actually was working on something very similar and our visions really aligned. And I'm so very grateful to be here with LightNet and everyone here. So thank you.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
awesome. So one of the things that happened for Dan, from what I understand, was missing time. And Daniel has done over 20 hours of hypnotic regression with him in order to kind of pull that all together. What do you remember about that night? Because I think Daniel was saying you guys didn't get it on camera, but you got the aftermath of like Paola Harris and like, you know, he was freaking out and like, so do you guys remember that night that we're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. I had the equipment that you see over my shoulder there set up at Atacama. You know, a year before at Paula Harris's conference, you know, Starworks, Ricardo Gonzalez had, in his automatic writing, he had received a message that there was going to be a ship, you know, sighted at a particular day, like date, and a particular hour and minute. So, you know, I was at the conference when he did his talk and he explained this, and he did invite people who were at the conference to go to Atacama. So Mark and myself and who else did we have there? We had Dan, and there was, of course, Paula was there. Well, there was like 300 people there, Mark. And I had the camera set up. And yes, we caught the light in the sky that appeared at exactly the time that was predicted. We do have that. It's on the channel, Rob Freeman UFO World Explorer channel, Atacama. And, you know, we were filming. I was filming. Dan was with me. He was helping me out with all the equipment. And Mark, you had gone with others. This is in the desert, so there's bush and sort of small trees around. It's one of the driest places in the earth. And all of a sudden, Dan said to me, I'm really feeling compelled to go over towards the trees. We were in a large open area with the 300 people, but there were trees maybe, you know, a few hundred yards away from us. And he says, I really feel compelled to go over there, but I don't want to leave you with all the camera equipment and all these crazy people. I said, you know, Dan, we're here for the experience. Just go. You know, if you feel compelled, go. So he did. And that was fine. And I think, Mark, this is where you can pick up the story about,
Yeah.
What happened to Dan?
Yeah, it was really interesting. I right just at this couple in the last minute or so, Zenka, I dropped the link into the chat. That is a 15-minute video that chronicles again Dan's experience. You know, it's an incredible experience, really, because you know Rob had said, you know, Dan went off and Rob was in a good position to keep doing his work, and Paula came to me and said, "Do you mind coming with me and going out and you know, let's just see if we can connect." So the video captures that in that link. You know, you see Paula and I going off, and we saw Dan in front of us. I couldn't quite make him out right away because it was quite dark. A lot of activity, over 300 people from 24 countries, a lot of noise, a lot of activity. But we followed Dan. To watch the video really resonates even today to watch it, because Dan was in a daze, you know, like not completely fully aware of everything. Probably I wouldn't want to say it in an insensitive way, and I don't feel it's insensitive to say that he was kind of in shock. You know, there was like some kind of state of shock that he had experienced, because he had seen these trees light up for him. He explains it on camera, how these trees lit up in succession. On camera, you can hear the dogs. Like the dogs are in the area where you can hear them. You know, there's an agitation there. And then he disappeared. You know, he did.
And Mark, can I jump in here?
Please.
Just before that, when he was walking into the woods, just before Mark saw him, he actually heard the words in his head, "Be prepared." It was a voice, and it said, "Be prepared." I think it was 4 or 5 times that he heard that voice. And he says, "Rob, I've never had voices in my head in my entire life," but he clearly heard a man's voice. And go ahead and continue, Mark.
Yeah, and no, it's exactly it, Rob. And then what ended up happening was he talked about it on camera, but again, like kind of just very emotional, you know, and to know Dan is to know that he has a very strong emotional core. You know, he has a lot of, you know, and he wears his emotions outright. And he went off again. And it must have been over an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes of missing time. He doesn't remember, you know, he does not remember where he was. He doesn't remember what he did. He doesn't remember anything after the trees, after the message that Rob mentioned about be prepared. He doesn't remember anything. And then the next day, it was beautiful. You know, there was the group. Ricardo Gonzalez, who was hosting the event, again, you know, an incredible contactee and an incredible advocate of you know, peaceful interactions and with benevolent extraterrestrials, brought Dan up front, and Dan addressed the group. And then this is where it got super interesting, because, and it's in the video, one of the ladies there had I don't know what would be, Rob, not a dream, but
it was in the meditation, Mark. The ladies, from one of the Spanish speaking countries, the day before,
yeah,
I believe it was the morning of the night where all this happened. Like, so it was the day before, right? They had done a meditation, and in the meditation, they received this message, and I was present when they told it to Dan the next day when they were speaking English. And they said the message they received was that one of the cameramen was going to have like an ET experience. And that's all they got in the message. So, you know, when all this happened to Dan, and of course, Dan was asked if he would speak to the whole group of 300 people, and he related his whole thing. And that's when these ladies came up to us afterwards and met us as the cameraman, and told us that they had actually received this message in the meditation the day before, that one of the cameramen was going to have an experience.
And that happens a lot actually with his expeditions, is that some group goes off and then they have the big experience. do you think it would be possible for, and this is also what they do in Mount Shasta with other groups, is that they make sure that the group is isolated with no other random people there, and then they allow the experience. But what is your actual theory about missing time? And what is your theory, from your gut about whether or not, if I'm standing here and someone else is standing next to me, is it possible that I see something and the person next to me doesn't? Or is that not possible? And, Mark, the link that you shared wasn't no longer available. And also people are requesting that maybe
I can change
okay.
to a photo. I just watched the link though, Zenka, like it's playing live on Rob's YouTube channel. There's no
I couldn't get it to load.
Let me see if it opens for me here.
That would be an anomaly if it wasn't, because I was literally just watching it before I did a share of the link itself.
It says this video isn't available anymore, so
that's impossible. That's impossible.
High strangeness. We get to add a glitch in the matrix.
Yeah, and
which is what we wanted.
Honestly, this is being recorded, and I clicked on it. It's going to record my screen. I mean, that's a video on our channel.
That's been there. There's never been a problem with that video, guys, ever.
The way they're censoring things these days, who knows?
Well, that's exactly why we're going to have a people's disclosure movement, because we'll just have the map with all the stuff, and that's fine.
And Mark, are you able to click on it, Mark, right now?
Yeah, let me try it too, Rob. We'll keep talking, but let me take a look, because that's very strange.
Okay,
what's your theory about missing time and whether or not, like, people will all see the same thing, or if someone, like, did everyone miss time? Like, how could it be that just,
Yeah, it was Dan that had the missing time. Now, who knows what that's all about? It's very possible that depending on a person's psyche, some of these things that happen are so incredible that your own brain will just shut everything down and it's too much. It's very possible that missing time is part of that component. Now, Dan did receive the message, be prepared. So psychologically, he was being prepared that you're about to be in for something. It's very possible that when the trees flashed in succession and started happening, it was too much for Dan. So your own brain can kind of lock you out of this. I mean, how many stories are there of people that when they have something so traumatic happen, they don't remember? Their brain insulates them from it because it's just too much for us human beings to handle. And, quite often then in hypnosis, this can be brought out in a controlled, safe way. So, did that happen to Dan? I don't know. That's just a theory, but it's a plausible theory. Some of these things that can happen are just too much for people. I mean, some of the things we've had happen are pretty incredible, but we've been gradually being desensitized to it over the last 7 years. I mean, if we had the things that we experience now happen to us when we first started into it, I think we'd be running to the car in fright. But, we've also learned to embrace this, not from a period of fear at all, or not from a point of fear. It's kind of like from a position of love. Like, look at your ET brothers as star brothers and sisters, and, have feelings of love in your heart. A lot of people that might be new into this, as soon as something unusual happens, they get scared and they exhibit fear. And we do know, in talking to Sixto and Ricardo, that they've had many times when they've had groupings of people and the ETs were starting to show up, but they then left again because there was too much fear in the group. And honestly, from what we hear, is that the ETs do not want to, they don't want to psychologically damage the people. If there's too much fear and the people can't handle it, well, it's okay. Let's come back another time. They don't want to, they don't want to psychologically damage people they're coming out to see them. And a lot of people just don't know what they can handle until something happens. And so, we've been gradually desensitized to this. So when stuff happens, it's kind of like all this cool high strangeness. We embrace it and we look forward to it. And if we don't have cool high strangeness things happen, then It's like, what's going on? Are we not being accepted by our star brothers tonight? So I think some of this can take some getting used to, and that could be a component of what happened to Dan, possibly. I don't know. I just don't know.
So, can you talk about what is your definition of high strangeness, and what are some examples that you went through?
Yeah. So I guess the definition of cool high strangeness is things that would not normally happen according to what we know life in the normal world here to be. Like, when you reason things out, when you see things happen in a logical way, cool high strangeness are things that go totally against what is logical, what's reasonable, what is scientifically possible. I mean, one of our highest examples of cool high strangeness was the duplicate check incident. And, I guess we've got that all documented on our channel. So I'll try to just summarize it in a very brief way. But one of the members of our group had written a check for her rent before we left to Australia. And she had instructed her ex to go into the apartment, tear it out of the book, take it down to the landlord on March 1st. We were in Australia, and on March 1st, he did go into her apartment. They share 2 sons and, have a great relationship now that they're not together, right? And he quite often babysit the kids and so on. But he went in March 1st, grabbed the check, took it down to the landlord. The landlord wrote the apartment number on it. The landlord personally takes it to the bank, personally deposits it as a paper check, and it is stamped on the back by the teller by a wet stamp. And the teller wrote on the check as well for deposit only and the account number. So she sees it go through her bank app while we're down in Australia. Yes, her rent's paid. She's happy about that. Happy that it's paid, not the amount, of course. But we get back from our expedition. And Mark, you and I were just heading to Norway to the Heston Lights phenomenon
within a week.
Erling Strand within a week. And Mark gets a phone call from Liz at the airport. We're getting ready to board. And Mark, you can pick up on the story from here.
Yeah, like it was a very strange conversation. Like it was, we were, I don't know, maybe 40, 45 minutes away from boarding, and I get the call, and it's straight up. It's like, I'm having something I can't explain this. I need to talk to you about something. And I said, oh, what's going on? And she was like, well, remember when we were in Australia and I set it all up with my ex to do the check, to come in into the apartment, take the check, take it to the landlord. I said, yeah. She goes, well, the check is still in the checkbook. And I said, oh no. I said, oh, I mean, your first reaction, right? Your first reaction is, oh no, he didn't take the check. And she goes, no, he did take the check. He took the check, and because I have a copy, I have a copy of the check in my CIBC app. I have, it's all there. I see that it's gone through the system. I see that they scan the front and the back, and there's a wet stamp on the check to show the date and time and the whole thing done at the bank. And I said, but you're telling me that the check is in the checkbook. And she's like, yeah, the physical check is in the checkbook. So Rob and I were 9 days in Norway. We're like playing with this. We're like, bless her heart. She was going to the bank and she was getting photocopies and different things from the bank. So when we got back, the first thing we had to do was, okay, let's take the check that's in the checkbook and just put it side by side. Like, we don't have the trained eye. We ended up going to a forensics expert and having him, in a trained way, look at the checks, look at the curvatures of letters, look at the dots, look at everything, right? A professional. But we looked at it, we put it up, and we went, these are identical. The only thing was different. The only things that we noticed that were different. This video is on our channel too. It's a very, very interesting experience because, it's heavily documented, heavy analysis, heavy evidence. We're really big on that. We love debunking our own stuff. So we put it through the ringer. The only thing that was different about the two checks was that when the landlord took the check, he put her apartment number in the bottom right-hand corner. Okay. So that number, that apartment number appears in the bottom right-hand corner of the scan of the check that went through the system. But that number on the timeline that we were tripping over doesn't exist, right? Because it theoretically or non-theoretically, that check never went through the system. We ended up going to the credit union of the landlord. I ended up recording this audio and it's amazing to hear the audio because I absolutely grill the cashier saying in a nice way, soft way, you know, like, what's your policy? Like, how do you do this? Like this wet stamp, this is physical, you know, this wet stamp is physical. And she's like, oh yeah, no. The landlord would have had to have brought it in physically and brought it to us and we would have done the stamp.
So the bottom line is the check is still in the checkbook and it's the same check number and everything is identical.
What is your theory though? What is your theory on this? Like, what does your gut tell you? Is this the Mandela? What is this?
There's multiple timelines, parallel universes. I mean, we've talked to scientists who say that since the 50s, top physicists from the well-known universities around the world propose this kind of stuff, but they don't have any real proof. Well, we got proof in that check. I mean, this is being written up in Grant Cameron's book of, you know, he calls it an apport. I don't know what it is. All I know is there's two timelines. There's the timeline of where the check got taken out of the book and carried to the landlord. He took it to the bank and deposited it physically. Now there's a split timeline where the check never left the book and it's still there to this day. And as Mark said, when you blow up the copy of the check, when you blow up the check itself, it's still there. They are identical to the pixel, literally. And we've been told by a forensic handwriting expert that there's no way a human being can write out, you know, all the numbers of the check, like the full amount in words, plus the signature, plus the number, and all this stuff. There's no way any human being can copy it exactly. No way. And so there's no explanation for this other than that, yes, mathematics proves that this can exist. These timelines, they say there's an infinite number of parallel universes, that some are running ahead of time, some are running behind. We're all in these other universes. And some people even say, have you ever had deja vu? Well, you know, don't know. All we know is we're experiencing this very cool high strangeness and we love it. And this is just one example of the many things that we've had happen to us.
Well, this is like really blowing my mind. So, okay, so I want to ask you two questions. Does it mean that you think that there's another version of you in that other thing? And then I would ask you guys, and we're big on this at Exo Metaverse, what is your fantasy timeline for disclosure and for your work? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to skip the record to? What's your vision of how the best version of your life and this movement could be? What do you want?
Mark, you talk. I've been doing a little bit more talking.
No, it's a great question, Zenka. Like, I could kind of tie it into what we were just talking about with the duplicate check and all that kind of thing. Like, Rob and I often have discussions like, what put us here? You know, why are we here? Why are we being exposed to these kind of synchronicities and these cool high strangeness things? Why would we be shown what could potentially, hypothetically, be an alternate timeline or a parallel universe timeline? Why is that? And we have a list. We have 30 plus things. Okay. Like a funny thing I'll say really quickly, just because I think people might get a kick out of it, because of CE5 and consciousness and all the different things. 2017, I can do this story very fast. We went to Australia to meet up with a CE5 group. Okay, very into CE5. We rented a car and we were supposed to get another car, but we got this car instead of the other car. We got out there, we were about to do a CE5 with this group of about 10, and somebody laughed in the group and said, "Did you read your license plate?" Okay, so we said, "No, actually we didn't." We looked down at the license plate. Guess what the first three letters were? CE5.
Now we've never had a car rented with that on it in all the years before.
And that's in our that's in our documentary, and that hasn't happened only once with a car. We've had that happen 2 times. We had that happen when we went to Scotland and we met with a guy who talked to us about Men in Black. And within 5 hours of talking to him, we parked our car to have dinner and we looked at the car in front of us, and the license plate had at the front MIB. So we say, are we being played with? Is that communication? Are they talking to us? That's what we feel. We feel that these are the cosmic carrots, Zenka, that we talk about. These are the things that make us, that trigger us to make us think, there's something going on, because we've had this happen over 30 times, 30 different ones. We write them all out. We write out every one and we put them. I have pages of all the details of everything that's ever happened. So can I answer your direct question? I don't know if I can answer it directly. You know what I mean? Like, will we get a message one day that might show us our path a little more, might show us what we're supposed to do? If we have a message to tell, if we're a part of disclosure, cool. That'd be amazing. That would be amazing, because we do feel we bring a point of view, a perspective of this that's a little bit science, but a lot about humanity. You know, we've had a lot to do with humanity when it comes to this kind of thing. We've talked to a lot of ET witnesses, a lot of contact, and experiencers and things like that. But we also bring the every person approach. So hopefully we'll know our role in disclosure at some point in the future.
Okay, and there's a question in the chat. Does anyone have an explanation how the duplicate check phenomenon was created? No. If whoever asked that question, if they have a theory, they could maybe share it, or if you know of any scientists. All I know is that scientists tell us that yes, this is possible. Yes, it's in the mathematics, and we've all believed that it's theoretical, but you guys actually have some proof that it's off the theoretical table now and into the proof table.
Yeah. And I like this chat because people are talking about the cool high strangeness. We did an interview with Paul Hynek, the son of Dr. J. Allen Hynek. And Dr. J. Allen Hynek has in one of his books, he talks about the importance of not just the experience with an extraterrestrial or a craft, but he coined the term high strangeness back in the 70s, because there were too many reports from both himself and Jacques Vallée, and we've had the privilege and honor of talking to Jacques Vallée about cool high strangeness, and he has amazing things about that. So it's a pretty amazing time to get a little bit of both.
Well, if you ask me, it's to keep us interested in it. As Mark says, it's a bit of a cosmic carrot. I mean, if you had this kind of stuff happen, wouldn't that want to keep you involved with this?
I'm sharing the link for all the people that are joining us with New Realities, because we're about to go into breakout groups. So if you'd like to join us on the Zoom, just go to bit.ly/exo hangout. And you'll be able to join the breakout groups, which we're going to start in just a moment. So what we learned from scientists, well, a few things. First of all, we've done interviews with Paul Hynek, and he's been such a supporter of us from the beginning. So if you're an EXO member, check that out. And we've also done an interview actually with Riz Burke, and his new book is all about the Mandela effect and this kind of stuff. So one of the things I want to tie back in, though, is that, Dean Radin taught us last session that if you want to manifest something or something to happen, you have to be intentional about it. And our survey showed that time travel is the best way to do it, to actually travel to the future, see that it's done, and then have gratitude. So those were the three. So I wonder if we could try to do some citizen science with both of your work and say, okay, so your next exhibition is going to be in this town. And then you guys imagine you guys capturing everything on your super cameras and imagine that thing that you want to experience, right? However that is. And then, so that's the intention. It's not just like, oh, whatever happens, happens, right? You're intending to land on the highest timeline, which is that we as everyday people get to share this story in love, that it's not on Fox News, that it's coming from our mouths, right? So it would be interesting to see that. And I was also thinking if there's any VR creators out in this audience, it'd be interesting to create VR experiences of contact so that my nervous system, so that everyone's nervous system can calm down. So that when you have that experience, when you ask to see that craft, or when you ask to have an ET at the foot of your bed, that you don't shut it out. Because you're right, fear is going to tank the whole thing, right? So this is the time, now that we know that this works, now that we know high strangeness is not strange, it's part of reality, now is our chance to really get these higher timelines happening. Because when it happens for one of us, it happens for all of us. And when it happens for one of us, it becomes like wildfire. And the galactics have so much to teach us. They have a higher wisdom, they have a higher intelligence. So I'm going to put everybody in breakout groups right now, and we're going to talk to Rob and Mark about their contact experiences. They've been documented a lot, so maybe we'll go, I'm thinking you can talk briefly about your childhood experience, but let's get something else on the record as well. And then we're also going to talk to them about their camera rig and exactly how it works and the different, you know, the infrared and all those things. But this is all recorded, so we encourage you to go into the breakout groups if you want and share any high strangeness that you've had. You can also share that you need support in your life right now. The time is yours. So again, assign a timekeeper. Everybody gets time to talk, no interruptions when the person's talking. If they want you to give feedback, you can. And just divide the time by 20 minutes with the number of people in your group. And don't start talking right away because I'll be moving everybody around. So Rob and Mark, please do not join the breakout groups, because just stay in the main group. And we want to ask you to share now one of your contact experiences that's been really special to you. So hold on, let me get you, who wants to go first, Mark or Rob?
Rob, you gotta talk about Australia, man.
Okay.
Okay, hold on one second. Let's get this clean. And let me get the breakout group started. Okay, here we go. Okay, go ahead, Rob.
Okay, so Australia, it was, let me just turn this off here. Not now. Okay, so I should not join a breakout room, right?
Right.
Not now. Not now.
Right.
Okay, good.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we were down there for about 3 weeks, and you know, we don't schedule everything nonstop. We've learned right at the beginning that you loosely schedule events and interviews, and then you leave at least half of the time sprinkled throughout for all these cool synchronicities to occur. And, you know, this cool high strangeness. We found early in the game, if you book yourself nonstop from beginning to end, you don't have time for the real stuff that happens. So we do leave it open, and that's when all our really cool things happen, it seems. But you got to come up with some kind of schedule. You know, we do put down a basic schedule. So it was the second last night, and we'd had a great night with Leonie and Kay and various people. And I asked Mark, you know, what are we doing tomorrow night? And he says, well, nothing. We're just going to relax before we head out the next day, flying back home. And I said, well, you know, we're having such a great time. Why don't we do something tomorrow night? I don't want to leave, right? And so we talked to Kay, and we said, you know, we would be into going somewhere tomorrow night if you know of somewhere we could go and people we could be with. And she knew these two guys that had a healing center up in the mountains. And I don't even remember where the mountains were. Do you, Mark? Oh, I can't hear your voice. I can't hear Mark.
I just remember it being like off of a rainforest, Rob.
Okay. So she contacted these guys and asked if they would like us to come as guests. And of course, Kay came, Leonie came, and there was 2 or 3 other people that came. And there was 2 or 3 carloads full that we all went. It was an hour or 2 away. And we got there right away. Mark was interviewing the guys, and I went off with one of the guys that were talking about experiences they'd had out in the mountains here, overlooking this big valley that it was kind of like a T valley. You could look down the valley right in front of their place, and you could look left and right down the valley. It seemed like 100 miles in every direction. And they said how they've seen where there was like 2 suns in the sky. They had orange orbs appearing at night, and they wished that they'd been into photography so they could record some of the stuff. And little beknownst to me, but everybody else was talking behind my back about who was going to have an experience that night. And everybody was agreeing that it was going to be me. Only they didn't tell me. They kept it very quiet. But everybody felt that. They felt that it was going to be me. And I had already said, I'm leaving all the equipment at home. I've got all this fancy stuff, but it's like, just leave it at home, leave it back at the place we're staying, and just try to connect. It's our last night. And I myself felt like there was going to be something that was going to happen. So we were all set up in the evening in this healing center. As you come off the highway, you kind of drive down maybe, 600 feet down to where their healing center was. And it's basically a converted house, and it's, got a big porch around it, and you have a beautiful view down these valleys. But the place that we were set up for sky watching was maybe about 100 feet short of the house, and it was a little bit higher up as you come in off the highway and you go down. So from there, you were looking down to the roof of the healing center, and you were looking out towards the valleys. And Mark, it was getting late, and the 2 guys had decided that they were going to pack it in. It was threatening rain. It was cloudy. And although generally we don't like sky watching when it's cloudy, we decided that we would continue on. And Mark, you had fallen asleep, and there was Kay and there was Leonie and so on, and they were playing with green lasers in another part of the sky. And I really wasn't paying attention to that. I happened to be looking over to the healing center, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was like I was watching a movie. There was this big teardrop shape orb that came down over a period of about, I'm going to say 3 or 4 seconds, and it was shimmering green. And I could see, because it was only like, 67 feet away, whatever. But with, your 2 eyes, you've got stereo. And when something's that close, you can see the perspective and the depth of it. And I estimated it to be about 3 feet across. And it was like, it had depth to it. It was like 3 feet across, 3 feet deep. And it was teardrop shape. And the center of it was a bright, shimmering gold color. And it was like, I was just mesmerized by this. And I assumed everybody was watching. I mean, I was quiet and everybody was quiet. And I just assumed everybody had their eyes on this thing. And it just came down. It got bright and shimmering, the most beautiful thing I ever saw. And then it just kind of went out right over the healing center. And I turned to the ladies and I says, wow, did you see that? And they looked at me and said, see what? I thought, oh my God. They were busy playing with the lasers, doing, connecting the dots with the stars, right? And drawing circles around satellites and all that kind of stuff. And they missed it. But because I was silent. I was being respectful for what I saw. Like it was just so entrancing, the most beautiful thing that I ever saw. And then Mark, he captured me talking about it, and you can just see my eyes glowing. You can just see the radiance because of what I saw. Now there's more to the story, but the guys, when we talked to them the next day, they said that these colors represented love and forgiveness. And Mark, there was the whole story about that blow up doll, the ET doll that the group had given us, and they had signed their names and, nice farewell wishes on it. And they'd handed us this doll, and I was still sleeping in the morning a little bit, and this was all going on in the morning. They decided what to name this blow up doll, and they came up with the name Mozzie, okay, from Ozzy, and it morphed into Mozzie. And when I came out and I heard them talking about Mozzie, I said, what are you guys talking about? And I said, well, we've called the doll Mozzie. And I said, Mozzie, that's my mother's nickname. We've called her Mozzie ever since we were little boys. It came from Mom and eventually morphed into Mozzie. And when the guys explained to me that my experience was all about love and forgiveness, I said, this is what I feel. When you're saying this doll is Mozzie, I said, this feels like this was my mom, God rest her soul. Because when she passed on, there was unresolved things between us. Okay. And this experience for me was a healing experience. It was like both my mom, God rest her soul, wherever she is, and where I was in the physical plane, it's like both of us are offering love and forgiveness. All is forgiven. And do you know, after that experience, the feelings that I hold in my mom, that I hold about my mom within myself are totally different now. It's kind of like I'm at peace, and she's at peace. She knows I'm at peace. I know she's at peace. And it was like a healing experience for me. And Mark, I don't know if you have anything more to add around that.
No,
but
no.
It was incredible. It was only a 3-second event, but it changed my life right there on the spot.
I mean, that's all I remember is coming to, because I had napped. It was just after 1 in the morning, and I came to, and Rob was just. I came over, and I put the link of the video in the into the chat room as well, because he was just glowing. Like, I'd never seen that. I've known Rob. He's been a best friend for like 12 years for me, and it's like I had never seen him in that state. It was kind of the same state that I saw Dan in, kind of like happy, but in a little bit of shock, a little bit of, and I remember asking him, how do you feel? How did you feel when it happened? And he said straight up, like pure joy, pure happiness. He akined it to the birth of his children. When he said, I've had these incredible experiences in my life. I remember when my first son was born. This is the same level of adulation, and it was a beautiful moment. Beautiful.
Yeah, I have to correct that. This was 1 notch down from the birth of my children, right?
I can't say
they're the same.
No, not the same, but it's like the same level of like, wow.
It was so close.
Wow.
It was, I guess what I felt, Mark, was I was almost hypnotized.
Yeah.
I was like mesmerized. And it just felt like I was totally high. I mean, I don't do drugs, but I can imagine what people feel like. But I just felt that I was high on life. Like I just felt that I was way up here. And it was just a feeling that I still had in the morning.
Yeah, I can't wait till we call high strangeness high reality. As we start to realize that this stuff is possible. And I just realized that I misannounced our next show. Our next show is actually going to be with Suzanne Worthley, who teaches people, how to talk to the loved ones. Because like you said, often these things get, you didn't have that last conversation. You didn't resolve that last thing. And one of the curiosity labs that we're working on right now with 3 organizations is called Life After Life. And it's going to be called Total Communication. And we're going to get into groups of 8, just like we're going to do with Contact, and talk to people on the other side, because it's possible. We know that. I mean, psychics say things about things that they couldn't possibly know. So again, we really have to recalibrate our understanding of the way reality works. And the other interesting thing about your story, Rob, is that my friend texted me last week saying, my 7-year-old child saw a UFO last night and it was shaped like a teardrop, like you're saying, it was shaped like that. And it pulsed, they said. And they said we had left our camera downstairs and we were so like blown away by it that we couldn't even really move and go get the camera. And so the three of them, the mother, the father, and the son, sat there for 10 minutes going, wow. And it was like pulsing. So it was like, it's really cool. And yeah, so Mark,
can I tell you about the rest of the story? I just remembered when I told the guys the next day at breakfast, I was late for breakfast, but they asked me, where did you see the orb exactly? And I said, well, it was just in front of the chimney. And they said, really? And I said, why? And they said, that's our healing room. So
wow.
it all seemed to connect. It all seemed to connect.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. So Mark, like I said, before we talk about the camera rig, what do you want to share an experience that you've had with contact that was something that you want to document?
Yeah, absolutely. I would have to say probably the most profound one at a personal level. We went to Peru 2 years, 2.5, almost, well, just, yeah, 2.5 years ago, May of 2019. We had the privilege to travel with Ricardo Gonzalez and for 18 days, and there was a group of 7, and we went to a lot of incredible places, you know, like Chilca Desert and a lot of different places where there had been contact experiences. I was kind of going through a few things at a personal level before the trip, and Ricardo was sensitive to that. He knew, because we had been friends, and he knew that. And we knew that it was all like culminating to us going to 14,000 feet up to Marcahuasi, the stone forest in Peru, and everybody would joke and call it Marcus Wasi. You know, they were dubbing it to me, right? And so the most interesting experience that had an effect on me that kind of worked its way through the trip was when we were in Lima. And again, I put a lot of emphasis and a lot of power behind like, you know, what I call like a ground level experience, you know, like something that's not, it's not, you know, if Rob and I have evolved from any place and through all this, is it's not about lights in the sky. You know, it's what happens around you or can happen around you. And I had felt kind of ill on the one night, and Ricardo explained to me after my experience that he felt that I had some kind of interfacing with an extraterrestrial, or they were trying to be a part of me that night. Because what ended up happening was I woke up at like, I couldn't get to sleep until 3 a.m. I felt quite ill just that one night of the 18 days. And I woke up at about 5:15 in the morning to a very large, loud cracking sound. Like it sounded like something was coming through the wall. We have all this documented. We took pictures and everything of this. And suddenly the floor cracked, buckled up. We took pictures of that too.
And video.
And there was basically what happened, and we even looked it up on Google because there was no earthquakes that day, but an earthquake happened in just my room. So that was a mind blow. You know, we're like, okay, we hit the ground was all buckled up. Rob, I went across the hall. I got Rob, I got Bill. They'd heard it, but nothing happened in their rooms. It just happened in my room. And So that was like a feeling, right? Like something's happening, and it culminated. Many things happened, and I won't get into all of them, like things appearing in my room, and that Rob had lost a laser pen at one point, couldn't find his laser pen. Suddenly I was laying in the bed and I woke up and the laser pen was underneath me. Like, where did it come from? No idea. So all these different things kind of happened throughout the course of something's happening here too. All these different things that sort of happened through the course of those days, and it culminated with Markawasi. And Markawasi was a very spiritual experience for me. And I remember the coolest thing that happened for me is I basically had a dream where in the dream I heard the words, welcome to your new life. Okay. So this is 2019. I was like, wow, okay. And I don't even know if I told Rob this part, but this is an actual fact. I think I have, because I've told this story a few times. But the next day I was talking to Ricardo, and he came up to me and I'm smiling, and he's like, how are you feeling? I'd had deja vu, a lot of it coming into San Pedro and all the different places that we were visiting to go to Markawasi. I had a real feeling that I'd been there before. And he said to me, are you ready for your new life? And I thought, how are you telling me this? Like, how do I have a dream where I hear the words, welcome to your new life, and you're saying to me the next morning, he shakes my hands, hugs me, and says, are you ready for your new life? And this was all a precursor to us going to Mount Shasta and a whole bunch of other different experiences that we had in that 6-month. Atacama was, a couple months after that. So yeah, I would say that was the most significant experience that I had.
Amazing. So we have about 20 minutes, 25 minutes left. And we're going to bring the people back from the breakout group in a few minutes and allow people to share stories or ask you guys questions. So for my final question, let's talk about your camera rig. And can you start with advice for people like me who just have their phone, right? Or maybe a tripod. So give us some advice on that, and then talk about your rig and what the capabilities are. And yeah, share your journey with that.
Okay. Number one advice, do not use autofocus. Please, 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 please. How many videos have we seen on YouTube where the focus is going in and out, and it's like, oh man, they captured something terrific, but it's totally out of focus and totally ruined. It comes into focus for a second and then it's gone. With a camera on your phone, the best way to deal with this, wherever you are, maybe there's a bright street light off in the distance, even the moon or a star. Okay, go on your phone. If it's an iPhone, press and hold the screen. It locks the focus. If you can remember that one thing from tonight, I will have accomplished my purpose here. It drives me crazy so much seeing all these videos that the person got something special. It was ruined by the camera. So, with your camera phone, with your phone camera, press and hold and lock the autofocus, auto exposure. Now you can move around and it's going to be focused at infinity for the rest of the time you have your screen open. And if there's a ship going across the sky or a craft, you're going to get it in detail. So that's a big one. If you have more of a regular camcorder, please, please, please switch it off of autofocus. Okay, just remember those words. Take it off autofocus, put it on manual, and then again, do the same thing. Just zoom in or whatever, but just move your focus until the moon is in focus or until the stars go very small so they're in focus. When they're out of focus, they go big, right? And a lot of videos you see where you see this big thing shimmering as a big ball of plasma, it's a out of focus star. That's all it is, unfortunately. So that's my advice for anybody with a camera is please put it on manual focus, or if with a camera phone, hold the screen until it appears the words focus is locked. Okay, and then leave it open and take your pictures. Now, getting into the rig, we call this the WMD, weapon of mass detection. Okay, or I coined a new word. Mark is an English major and he tells me it's not a word, but I call it also the weapon of mass debunction. Okay, he informs me debunction is not a word, but you know, in my brain it is. So what we do is, you know, there's different cameras, and depending on the expedition, I'll either go with the full rack of cameras or, you know, a smaller rack. It's like, you know, ribs at the restaurant. You can go with the half rack or the full rack, right? And here's some of the cameras. The big one in the middle that you see right about here, that one is a $50,000 thermal camera, zoom. It's black and white thermal. And it's through that camera that we saw an actual craft on the balcony of the Paradigm Conference in Australia with Damien Knott. Okay, we'd had the whole camera set up for fun. He had never seen a thermal before. I had it set up looking out into the sky over the downtown area, over the buildings. I didn't see anything. And I handed it to him. I said, you look. As soon as he put his eyes in there, he said, I think I got something. I thought he was putting us on. I look and there's an actual craft, disc shaped with a dome on top, slowly moving across the sky. Now, we had Kelly with us and others, and it was not captured in any of the visible or full spectrum equipment. It was only in the thermal. It wasn't even captured in the infrared camera. Okay, it was only the thermal. You know, infrared is like near infrared, it's just off of visible. Thermal goes further into the infrared band and it's more heat versus light. And so we captured it. I believed I was recording it at the time. And then we went to play it back and it was all snow. The audio was captured, but the video was all snow. So, you know, is that a case of the ETs, you know, where they gave us another cosmic carrot? It's like, we'll let you see it. Everybody can have the experience, but we're not going to let you get it on video. So, and Mark captured all of this happening as the, you know, film producer, sort of behind the scenes and all of that. But we, you know, the video was all snow. So now when you look at the cameras, we've got the thermal, that's the main one in the middle. And that's zoom. I also have color thermal, which is more wide angle and it's more for a spotter scope. And then I have visible telephoto. So it can zoom right up and, you know, look in the windows of a craft if it had to. I've got zoom full spectrum cameras. So the filter's been taken out. So there's no filter. So it's the actual sensor of the camera picking up everything that's coming into the lens. Normally a camera has a filter, which basically filters everything but visible light out. It filters out the infrared, it filters out the UV and anything further, so that you're only getting the same thing as what our eyes see, visible light. So this camera is a full spectrum zoom camera. So it will capture anything that could be in the ultraviolet, through visible, through into the infrared range. And then I have, what else do I have? I've got a full spectrum wide angle camera. And the full spectrum wide angle camera is for just panning around and seeing if something should pop up. And I might mention here, when we were in Algonquin last summer, Algonquin Park in central Ontario, Canada, you know, a few hours from where we live, we captured a very interesting phenomenon. I'd never even heard about this before, an atmospheric sprite. And Mark, you have a video on the channel of the atmospheric sprite. A sprite, an atmospheric sprite, is a discharge that is high above a thunderstorm And it's very rare to capture it. And it's only under certain conditions you can see that. Now, I realize this is not ET, but it's still pretty cool nevertheless. Very few people get to see an atmospheric sprite. The full spectrum camera caught it on video, and you can see a discharge. And we're in Algonquin Park, which is like 2 or 3 hours north of Toronto. A storm has to be several hundred miles away, and you have to have a clear view all the way to the storm to capture this and to see it. And the conditions were perfect that night that we captured it. So the full spectrum captured that. The visible didn't capture it, only the full spectrum. And the infrared camera, the green night vision, captured it. So some of the other cameras on the WMD are the green night vision, and I have zoom, like, telescopic, traditional green night vision. It's your near infrared. That's when you see green videos of nighttime. That's what that is. It's the night vision. It's right next to visible, but not as far as the heat spectrum goes, like, thermal. And then I also have a wide angle infrared, the green infrared as well. So what other cameras do we have on there? There's also, I've got a meter on there that measures your temperature and dew point, because, when you're out with all the camera equipment, if the temperature drops below the dew point or comes to the dew point, you'll get dew all over your lenses. And then everything you photograph is going to be all hazy and kind of blurry. So that's why we try to go to more desert locations where the dew point is very low. It's so dry that you'll never get moisture on your lenses. But I also have, in cases where the dew point is high and we're likely to get dew on the lens that night, I've got lens heaters. So they're just little wraps with a cable you can plug into rechargeable batteries, and it warms up the lens, the body of the lens. It goes around, and it keeps the lens warm enough that you won't get dew. I don't know if there's anything I've missed, but those are the cameras that I've got. And our famous Squamish orb, if you just search Squamish orb, it's hard to find that video.
Yeah, I put that in the chat there too, Rob. Yeah, we think that YouTube are purposely not letting people go to that, because you can put in all the words and it will not come up. However, if you
duplicate it, like it's just send it out raw to a bunch of people and we'll upload it in different places.
And that'd be great. If you lose the link, if you just go to our channel and go to videos and just say most watched or most viewed, it's the very first one that comes up. So you can go to the channel and get it that way if you lose the link.
Okay, great.
So that's not everything. That's just the WMD. There's the actual other camera that's fixed. It has your time lapse infrared and time lapse visible. Okay, I'm done.
That's great. Yeah, I'm super glad. I wanted to get to questions in the last 15 minutes, but I'm super glad we got that recorded, because there are a lot of geeks out there with weapons of mass detection. We have them in our hands right now, very high quality. So it's great that we're, learning about the visible spectrums and all that stuff. So it's very fascinating. So I just wanted to show you guys, before we've got a couple questions. So this was our survey here. Let's see. So we asked people, and again, these surveys keep going, so you can always fill them out. This is week 28. So people do think that it's easier for children to experience contact. And I was saying that maybe it's because they're more open-minded. They don't realize it's high strangeness. And, or maybe their third eye isn't junked up or whatever it is. I don't know. We'll have to ask that in another survey. But did you have any ET or UFO experiences as a child under 18? And 60% of the people that filled this out did. And we're getting that it was mostly at age 5 or 6. 7 is like a breaking point in your development, your body development, your spiritual development. So it's showing that a lot of this is happening before that time or around that time. And then when you fill out this survey, doesn't matter, you don't have to have had an experience as a child, but you'll get to read about these other experiences. And we'd love if you know someone who's had that experience to share it here, because eventually we'll reach back out to these people and we'll get them onto the map. And again, you know, it's interesting to see if we can be as parents more open to children, you know, sharing that, because sometimes we kind of shut children down and then they can't talk about it. So I'm going to pull Daniel in, and I see Kathy's also waiting for a question. Daniel, why don't you go ahead and ask the question, then we'll jump to Kathy.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to ask about your attitudes and beliefs, especially in relationship to the high strangeness experience. You mentioned a sense of needing a sense of open-mindedness, or some sense that you have faith that these beings or are positive or benevolent or something like that. So I'd love if you could speak about your attitudes in relation to these highly strange forces that seem to have kind of this narrative control over experience that's unfolding through synchronicity and these other things. And then to kind of speculate perhaps about what attitude shifts or beliefs might need to happen in order to invite the deeper contact of like face-to-face ET contact or ships landing or something like that.
Yeah, I would say that attitude and intention is super, super important. And, you know, I was taught as a kid to stay away from the bad part of town. So, you know, my dad was very careful to instill that in me. And I kind of apply the same thing as an adult now with respect to keeping an open mind to what's out there. We have the intention that we only want to connect with higher benevolent beings. You know, now people will talk about negative things and so on. And quite frankly, I think that if a person is negative and if that's their attitude, that's probably what they're going to attract. We're very positive and upbeat, and I think that attracts that to us. And then we specifically say that we would like to get involved with benevolent beings of a higher plane. We did have an experience in Australia, although there's really not any time to get into that tonight, with what we believe he was an ET being, but maybe on another show, Zenka, we could get into that one. And but we had put it out there, and I think if you do have your intention, I mean, there's so many different protocols for CE5, but quite honestly, that maybe is helpful to get started. You really, as from what we've experienced, you really just need to have an intention, keep an open mind, and the experiences will happen. Mark, I don't know if you've got anything more to add to that.
No, it's a great question too. You know, like I'm even kind of tying it into one of the questions here, you know, as far as what inspired us to do what we're doing. You know, I mean, just to keep it short, you know, listening to Rob tell me, he told me two stories. You know, he told me a story that was very open, you know, generic almost, not in a bad way, but just like I saw this outside of this building with the different people and talked about, you know, how it was in the newspaper. So that's why the survey is great, Zenka, right? Because you get that understanding that he was 12, you know, he was 12 or 13. This is 1966. And then 2 weeks later, he got kind of famous at school, right? Because people are like, oh, he's the guy that saw the, you know, with the 200 other people. And then a friend of his says to him, I want to see something too. So suddenly you have these two boys full of wonderment, awe, open hearts, putting together a little makeshift sky watching kit with a compass and some walkie-talkies and pens and pencils, pens and paper, and, you know, and shimmying up a little one-story antenna tower to get to the roof of their parents' house. That resonated with me personally. I was like, that's adorable. Okay, for starters, like that's just a precious open-hearted moment that they wanted to do that. They willingly wanted to do it. And when Rob told me that, I thought, I'm a father, right, of 3 children. Rob is a father and now a grandfather. I think I can say that, Rob. So you've got this kind of understanding that our thoughts have evolved as far as what inspired us. We wanted to experience. What continues to inspire us, I really feel, is to educate and inspire the next generations. We want to create an archive. We wanted to be able to bring our experiences and bring what we have discovered and bring it to the next generation. It's important to us, as individuals. You're doing the same thing, Zenka, with all of your work. You're creating this amazing opportunity to archive everything and have this resource. So I don't know if that completely answers the question. I just really wanted to have the opportunity to say that, because I think that is really important. It is definitely what inspires us and keeps us going, and it's definitely an open-hearted experience, and it's the connection that you make from that side. We've heard all the different stories over the years, experiences, good and bad, and we stay on the right side of the tracks. And our experiences have been amazing because of it.
And I will just add that, as Mark said, 2 weeks after that first experience I had as a kid at 12, and my friend asked, could we see something? And I said, sure, let's go on the roof of my house. I was a totally innocent kid, and I really believed we were going to see something. And sure enough, we did. Mark didn't get into that, but we had 2 sightings 30 seconds apart where there was hundreds of, call them crafts, but they were lights that seemed to be in the heavens, hundreds that went right across the sky in a second and a half, 30 seconds later, all the way back again in a second and a half. And that wasn't written in the paper, but, we went up on the roof of the house with the intention to see, and we were totally open-minded. It's not any more difficult than that.
Thank you. That's so great to have your advice, because you've certainly been around the globe watching so many people have contact. So it's great. I put it in the chat too. It's just intention, relaxing, and expecting to have an encounter. So I want to bring Kathy up. She's an XO member. If you're watching this from New Realities, thank you, Alan, for hosting our show on your amazing channel. And if you guys would like to get the archives, you can go to exometaverse/join, and for $4 a month, you can be part of our family. So Kathy, thanks for being a member. We really appreciate it. We'd love to hear your question.
Actually, well, the question will come at the end. I really have some, if you could highlight me, I have some slides to show, pictures.
Okay, great.
This involves you. So I'll start. A few weeks, maybe months ago now, you were interviewing Nolan.
Yes.
Right, okay. And I took some screenshots. And when I did, this is what I saw. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Is the slide, and then you and he are down in the corner.
Yes.
Okay, when I looked at the pictures, I'm going to make this bigger. This is what I saw in my pictures.
Yeah, that's my next door neighbor.
Did he show up? I mean, was he on the show that night?
Well, yeah, so she couldn't get her Zoom working, and so she came over and she was listening in. And so and then she was sitting behind me because I don't think she realized.
Okay. Here, I thought I had, so here's another picture of her. I thought I really had something going here.
Goodness.
Can you explain this? And it's your neighbor.
That's so funny. Yeah. So Sharon's also a member. She's on the call tonight, and she's so beautiful. Like, so I moved to Sedona. We hope, by the way, I'm going to set the intention right now that Mark and Rob have dinner at my house when you guys come and we go look at the stars. But so I landed here. I'm getting a divorce because my husband can't deal with the whole UFO thing. Like, I have just completely gone, down the rabbit hole. And they move into this place. It's like the cheapest place here in Sedona. It's like, okay, great. And next door to me is Sharon, right, who studied with Osho, right? She's like a mad genius with spirituality and everything. And then across the street from me is a guy who also is like obsessed with UFOs. So all of a sudden I get these two amazing elders that are just really in contact. And I remember like it must have been maybe 5 times that I'd been to Sharon's house, and then she started like bringing up the whole UFO alien thing, and she didn't know whether to talk to me about it. I was like, yes, and she's like, wow. So it's really great to have those conversations, and I'm so grateful to have her in my life and such a supporter of the work we're doing. And she, yeah, so yeah, that's hilarious.
I'm going to send you those pictures so you'll have a picture of you and her together.
Okay, that's great. Okay, Mark. So go ahead and ask your question, Mark.
Okay, Robin, Mark, thank you so much for bringing this point of view, your experiences to us. I'm interested because you have the camera knowledge and the ultraviolet and the and that kind of spectrum. What do you think the Webb telescope will show us? Will it show us alien life in a different world? Will it show us alien vehicles in motion? What do you think that it could do for us?
Okay, I guess my personal opinion is we're looking in the wrong spot. I mean, the stuff's right here. They're sending the telescope up into space, looking there. Well, it's right here. I mean, I've got a photo. I don't know, Zenka, if you can post it, of what we captured in Cusco, Peru, near the Moon Temple. And I ran into Lou Elizondo. I met him at the SCU conference in Alabama a couple years ago, and I showed him the picture. And he thought that it was actually not a craft, but it was the energy imprint of the craft as it was leaving our atmosphere. So I don't know. Can you, Zenka, are you able to show the
Yeah, I
group
was
that
just looking
picture?
for it. How did you send it to me, Mark? Do you have it? Because
I
I can't remember. I'm just looking at the email. It's not there, but did you
Well, I
text
sent
it
it
to
by
me?
email, yeah, but I can just show it on my screen in a second in the interest of time here. Um,
Oh no, I've got it. I've got it.
you
Never
got it?
mind. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, here we go. This will be better.
Okay, now that's a blow up. Can you show the original photo where it just looks like a small one in the distance at all there? Yeah, I guess that's it. But
It's just so big.
it's just showing part on the screen. But when you zoom in, show the other one. Look at how clear. Look at how clear that is, and especially up just a little bit higher. Look at the detail of that, of what that has left in the atmosphere. Now, I got to tell everybody who's interested in photography here, this was simply captured with my iPhone. Okay, Mark and I we were just taking shots in the sky. Okay, we had all the equipment set up, and we had this the strong feeling come over us. Just put the equipment away and meditate. We did. We put the equipment away. We meditated, and Mark got his iPhone out, and he was busy taking photos in the sky, and I did the same thing. And the very second photo I took was that picture. Now, remember that when a camera does a night shot, it's about a quarter second. It holds the exposure open for a quarter of a second. Now, rule of thumb in photography is if you take a picture with a handheld camera, it's got to be at least 1/60th of a second or faster. Generally 1/100 or 1/125 is better, but the camera was 1/4 of a second. Because what happens is if you go slower than 1/60th of a second, your image is going to be blurred by just your handshake, just holding the camera. Your motion of your hand is that much that unless it's 1/60th at least or faster, it's going to be blurred. Look at how sharp that picture was. So probably what happened is when I was taking the shots and they were quarter second exposures, that's the automatic setting for the iPhone. Okay, that craft flashed so fast, my eye never saw it, but the camera caught it. And that's why it's so sharp in that picture. And as Lou says, now, he's under an NDA, so he can't say absolutely, but he was speculating that that's the energy signature left in the atmosphere. It's like that the energy that was involved in going to another dimension was so strong that it excited all the molecules and they lit up for maybe a thousandth of a second. I mean, the whole craft isn't even in the shot. Only part of it. So I don't even know what got started that whole string, but that's a fabulous photo that we've got. That's probably the best photo we've got. The best video is, of course, the Squamish orb. We can't hear you,
great.
Zenka.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry. Yeah, that's great. And I would add to your recommendation to do autofocus to, like, if you guys have those monopods that, it'll still give you ability to swing around, but it'll give you some grounding on that. And, there was a woman, Victoria, who came to Sedona to show her footage of motherships, and she could only see the footage when she went reverse and a different time thing. So you might want to check that white snow one at different speeds, because I feel that who knows. So we're out of time. I'm going to let Catherine just have the last word. Also want to remind you guys that next week is a members, or in 2 weeks from now is members only. It's going to be with Suzanne Worthley. She is also giving an alien conference here. She talks all about the holographic universe, and she's also going to be talking about communicating with people across the veil. So look forward to that. Again, it's exometaverse.org/join to join us for that one. Okay, so Catherine, go ahead and we'll wrap this up with the final question.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Oh, I enjoyed your show tonight. And thank you, Mark and Rob, for being here and speaking. I'm going to check out your YouTube channel and your different things that you do.
Thank you.
So, I'm also an experiencer, and I've had a lot of contact, and I've been able to document and film and video a lot of my contact, which I'm so happy about. But what I have found is, I have both. I have my iPhone and I have the Aurora, which I got about a year or so ago. And I've gotten so much more on my iPhone that has been, the phenomena that has come through on the iPhone has just been like kind of mind blowing at times.
I swear they got a sense of humor that, I've got all this expensive equipment, yet what do I get the very best photo we have on? My iPhone.
Yeah. And the other thing you had mentioned, everybody's pointing up in the sky, which, yes, I agree, they are there. But they're also, what I have found is they're also here. So they've been in my room, they've been in my home, they've been in my yard, they've been in my trees, right? And I've been able to film them in my trees as these green lights, and then I'm out there talking to the green lights, and then all of a sudden these salmon discs are flying over my house. So they're all over. They're not just, yeah.
Fantastic. Do you have a channel? I would love to check out some of your footage. Do you have some of this posted on YouTube?
I don't yet. I'm working on that. I have to get more technically savvy. So
okay.
I'm old, so I
well, I mean,
if you do all these things,
we can help you post that on Exo Metaverse, and they could maybe want to post it on their thing. So you know how to get in touch with me, right, Catherine?
Yeah. I think you told me earlier.
Okay,
great.
And if you'd love to get in touch with me, I could help you out with some of this stuff too. Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, because that's my goal. I want to get my work out there for people to see, and I'm also into bringing people together and just teaching people how to do this, because it's everybody can do it. Everybody can do it, and the more the merrier. I always say.
Yeah. So true. Yeah. And Dean Radin confirmed that too. Everybody has psychic abilities. Everybody can pull high strangeness in. So let's set our intention, we're still in January. Let's set our intention that this incredible camera rig is going to have the year of its life. And we're just so appreciative of, like, you guys have great personalities. Thanks for leading this. Like, I really feel like it's a quest. It's like, global quest. And you guys share the enthusiasm that we all have for this. And thanks for putting so much time and money and effort into getting us all excited about filming UFOs. And thank you so much for the work you're doing in the world. We really appreciate it. If there's anything else you'd like to share, the floor is yours before we close.
I would say thank you very much for having us on. And it truly is a passion. It's a work of passion for both Mark and myself. It really is. And I think that's probably 90% of why we're having success with this. We truly do love what we're doing. We're not like a camera crew that's been paid to go out and try to film something. It's us. And this is our passion. And this is an expression of our passion, is, trying to capture, trying to make contact, Mark putting the movies together. It totally is a passion, a work of passion.
And I'd just like to say thank you very much, Zenka. It's been such a privilege. And I'd like to thank everyone for all the contributions of discussion. And, this is something that like Rob is saying, and I'll just reemphasize, is we live for this kind of discussion. We love to share our experiences. We love to share our project and everything that we do. We will continue to document, and we will continue to bring it all to everyone who wants to keep that momentum, keep it sharing.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Monday's going to be a really big day for Exo Metaverse and LightNet. We are going to start programming with 11 programmers on Martin Luther King Day. So we have a dream and it's becoming real. So thanks to all of you guys for your support and continued support. And we look forward to collaborating with all of you as we move through this incredible year together. So hi, strangeness, here we come. Let's do it. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.